Hi Alteryx users and YouTube. This video is going to show you how to use a tool called the Continuum Process Runner to run any Windows applications inside Alteryx. This tool turns Alteryx into a joinware between legacy and third-party apps and does not use files for data transfer, so it's great for GDPR situations. The tool is free to download from GitHub, and you can use it however you wish for any purpose, but please give credit when you do use it. Continuum Jersey is a consultancy, and we can help you open up the power of Alteryx to streamline your daily tasks, solve problems, and stop costly business errors. You can visit us at www.continuum.je, and you should be able to see that on the screen. Note that we're nothing to do with other companies or consultancies who happen to have the name Continuum. We are Continuum Jersey, an independent small company. We're also Alteryx Premier Partners and Alteryx Innovators. So the tool. Any program in Windows can start another program. This is called spawning a child process. In fact, Windows has a hierarchy of nested programs by its very design. Even a button or a checkbox in an application is a mini application within a larger one conceptually. And this means that Alteryx using Process Runner can call other programs, just as you might manually run them yourself. Alteryx can also pass the data into those apps via the command line, and Alteryx can read information that the apps print on the screen directly back into the workflow without using files. So it's like it's puppeting the child application. Every program on your desktop is just a convenient way to send commands to Windows. So every shortcut is just holding a command. Right-click on a shortcut and you'll see the command that's being sent to Windows when you click it. So Alteryx is effectively doing this via the Process Runner tool. It's sending a command to Windows to say run another application. If you have Python apps that need to run together but use different versions of Python, you can chain them together using Process Runner. If you have bespoke applications made by your own IT team, or Ruby scripts, or batch files, PowerShell scripts, or old legacy tech that runs in DOS, for example, you can build them all into a single workflow and process the data either before, in between, or after each app. Using all the usual wonderful Alteryx tools at your disposal, and Process Runner allows you to bring them in and get the power of Alteryx leveraged on your applications. You can also schedule that workflow, and then you can use Alteryx Server to schedule your workflows and have them run automatically. All the data transfer occurs in RAM. No files are dropped to disk at all. This should be important to everyone, as it vastly reduces the possibility of data leakage. GDPR is very important. This workflow demonstrates how Process Runner is used to chain Python apps to batch files and to PowerShell scripts. The Python scripts are extremely simple, so let's have a look at those. They're just very simple demo scripts. So this one, for example, is just reporting back the arguments that are passed in. There's a Python script which is just waiting for 10 seconds, just to show you the sequential nature of the way things are executed. And there's a Python script which just throws an error to show how errors are handled. Then a bit later on, we run a batch file in the same process. And again, that's extremely simple and just reports back to the screen what it's being passed. And finally, we run a PowerShell script, and no surprises there. It does exactly what the other stuff does. It just says hello, which is polite, and reports the arguments back to the screen. Back to the flow. So obviously, the programs you run would be your applications, and they would do something much more useful with the passed-in parameters. But the flow just shows how data goes in to the child spawned apps and how it's pulled out again back into the flow. So let's go over the tool and the configuration. So we have a very simple flow here. The tool needs to know which column is the application name. So we've got the exe path. So let's have a look at the data we're sending in. I've got column A in this particular flow holds the name of the application that I want to run, and I've configured the tool to point at column A for the exe path. It then needs to know which columns to use as data to pass into those executables. So I've got data that I want to pass in columns B, C, and D, some numbers, some text. And for the Python scripts, I've got the name of the py script to send in. For the PowerShell, I've got the script name. And for the DOS, I've got the name of the batch file as one of the parameters there. You should be able to pause the video and have a good look at those bits of information there if you want to later. So I'll just keep rolling forwards. Let's go back to the configuration. So the next thing after we've got the data in is we've got an auto escape option, which allows you to choose whether or not you want to wrap strings with quotes. For instance, a name usually has a space in it, but it's usually one parameter. For example, my name's Steve Hibbert, has a space in between Steve and Hibbert, and you usually want to pass that as one string if you're passing it with other parameters. So auto escape will wrap some quotes around stuff that needs it. If you don't want that and you want to control how your strings are passed in, you can turn that off, so it just gives you an option. The final section below, this section here, controls the names of the output columns, and I'll just run over what the output of the tool is. Standard out is whatever the app prints back to the screen. Literally, anything that the Python script prints on the screen or your batch file echoes back to the screen is captured into the workflow, and you can then process that text in your workflow. Return code is the value that the spawn child process, your Python shell or your command shell, reports when it finishes. Usually this is a 0 for success and a 1 for failure, but it might also include other values such as returned error codes. It all depends on the app that you run and what the programmer of that app decided to return as the exit code. You can use this to determine if your downstream tool should process the data that your app pumps out and conditionally process it, whether it's a success or not. The exceptions column holds any exception or crash dump that your child app spawned, your spawn child app reported back. So if the child process throws an exception, it won't cause Alteryx to crash. Alteryx will just capture the exception into the workflow, which you can then either report back to an administrator or you can see later in a report. The final column, diagnostics, is a bit of extra information to help you set up the tool. The diagnostics column, let's have a look at it whilst we're doing this. The diagnostics column reports back exactly what was requested from Windows. So, for example, that first line requested that python.exe was run with test script args.py with the parameters 49 and Steve. So if you're having a problem trying to get Process Runner to run your child applications correctly, you can see what is being passed to Windows, and you can then configure that so that Windows is receiving the information as you would expect for your app to run properly. So why is this cool? Let's run this and just show you it running. Why is this cool? It turns Alteryx into a way to link disparate technologies together, such as Ruby scripts, Python scripts, PowerShell scripts, Python scripts, you name it. Anything which you can run under Windows can be run sequentially or one after the other in Alteryx as the sort of guiding overseer of the processes. It allows you to automate the scripts and chain the apps together and schedule them using Alteryx Server. It doesn't use files at all to store the data temporarily. So it's very good for GDPR applications or anywhere where you're using sensitive information, client information that you don't want to leave sprayed around on hard disks. It uses multi-threading to avoid locking when connecting to the child process. It's a classic error in this situation. If you try and listen to the input and the output of an application, you can lock. This tool handles that and can deal with that and isn't exposed to that kind of error. All the code's on GitHub if you want to have a look at it. It's free to use for any purpose, including commercial purposes. So let's just have a quick look at what we're putting in, just so you can come back to this and see what's going on. So I had some Python scripts there that were set up to report back what was being passed into Python. So I can look at the output of those Python scripts in that standard output column. And I can see, for example, the 49 Steve information passed in and the name of the Python script. Anything that errors, such as this script, which I set up to throw an error, the test script exceptions.py script, the exception gets trapped and reported back into the Alteryx workflow. So you could act on that or process it or send it in an email to an administrator and say this didn't run properly, or deal with it any way you want. If you're a DevOps kind of person, that might be useful to you. And you can see that the DOS batch file there has reported back what we would expect from the DOS batch file, saying the parameter that was passed in. And we can see that the PowerShell script has said hello and reported back the two parameters that we passed in from column C and column D. So as we'd expect from a demo, I've done this before and I knew it was going to work, but that shows you it working and shows you that you can pass parameters into child processes, and those child processes can act on those input parameters and report back both output to the screen in the standard out column and return codes in terms of success and failure, and also exceptions if your child process exceptions at any point. So that's pretty much it. You can run anything under Alteryx. So that's pretty much it. If you want to use the tool, please just give credit and maybe visit us at www.continuum.je. You'll probably find us at Alteryx events. We're a premier partner and we're part of the Alteryx Innovators program. Please come and have a chat with us and see if we can solve your problems or offer new possibilities to tackle how you work and remove some of the manual processes that you've probably got going on. Please note that the tool is a C# plugin and not a macro. You can't do this kind of funky stuff with a macro. You need to really get under the hood and use a plugin tool. So this tool significantly extends Alteryx's functionality and power. I'll put links in the description to show you where to get the tool, where to download it, and where to get instructions on how to install it. And that's pretty much it. I've got my contact details in those instructions as well. So if you have problems installing, you'll be able to contact me, or problems using the tool, I'd be happy to help. I hope you enjoyed the video, and that's pretty much it. And thanks for your time. Bye.